Hello, friends. I'm Leigh Brown. Welcome back to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. Short and sweet today. We got a guest to talk a little bit about house hacking and give us a little bit of insightful information on what markets might make sense. So Mike Tich is with us. Enjoy the short conversation. I'll see you on the other side.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, Mike. How are you?
Good, good.
Good. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks. I didn't get a chance to watch too many of yours. I think I watched a few summaries, but it's always interesting to see what people are doing in real estate and just random hacky stuff. So.
Yeah, my show is very random and my audience is also pretty random. It's not just realtors, it's not just consumers, it's not just investors, it's a little bit of everybody. Mm-hmm. So as we chat, just try not to use acronyms and insider vocabulary and make sure that we're accessible to a lot of people, because people are always interested in real estate. And it's obviously proof of that is HGTV, which has been wildly successful with very formulaic TV, and real estate by nature is not formulaic. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, I feel like it's one thing we notice is every house is kind of a little bit different, right? Especially on we're on the sourcer / investor side, right? So it's been kind of interesting there.
So talk to me a little bit about you. Tell me where you're located, what you do in and around real estate. Give us some insights onto Mike.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So the name's Mike Kish. I'm in San Jose, California. So in Silicon Valley, been out here maybe 7-8 years or so. I moved here out of college in marketing / data science. So did a lot of work at Google, worked at Airbnb for about 3 years. So that was kind of a pretty exciting job there of how do we actually bring a lot of just being able to live anywhere in the world to the masses. Did a lot on the marketing side, mostly around how do we find new hosts, right? How can we actually get show people how an amazing an investment some of these properties are. How do we get people to actually rent out their room? I've been an Airbnb host for about 7 years, just renting out my extra space in my house. Was kind of shocked about how much revenue it was. And then kind of I actually real estate's actually a lot of fun. So I've been a personal real estate investor for about 4 or 5 years. Own a co-living spot near us here down in San Jose. So I have a place where I just rent it out by the room and get more cash flow that way. So happy to feel free to jump in with any questions.
Ask me, we call that house hacking now, but it is co-living. There's lots of different names for it. People have always had roommates, but now it's got house hacking, which makes it sound cooler than it is. But in a shortage, it's one of the most elegant solutions to, especially for younger single people, to find a place to be out of their mom's basement. Now, I'm curious, when you started working for Airbnb, did you have any relationship to investment real estate at all, or were you working there as a tech angle?
Mostly on the tech side of things. I was in the data science world, right? So, but back then I had already had my personal investment property on the real estate side, right? I already had I was already an Airbnb host for 3 or 4 years before that. So,
okay. So then, do you understand where AirDNA gets all their information? Because that's the website that I fall down the rabbit hole on all the time. That site's amazing.
Yeah. It's funny. We acquired a company sort of like that when I was at Airbnb, and the CEO became my boss for maybe 3 or 4 months, and it was always interesting how they apparently they did a lot of scraping of data. They were trying to do basically a copy of AirDNA of just try to find market trends and random things, right? They had a lot of crazy growth plans of where they would ship Airbnb hosts posters of their rooms to try to get them to use their service. So,
that's funny.
Yeah.
And odd, but hey, it must have worked because it's huge resource out in the world, and it's been great since COVID started because so many people are afraid to go to hotels. Airbnb feels safer because it's a smaller environment. But so is that how you choose to invest now? Are you trying to maximize cash flow in that way? Are you focused more on house hacking, or what do you find to be the most interesting angle of real estate at this point in Mike's life?
Yeah, so I haven't personally bought anything in about 3 years. I felt it's gotten a bit crazy. But so I'm looking actually now of maybe buying some investment stuff in Texas or something with HomeRoom, which is my company and my day job. So I'm still trying to find, okay, how do I buy more properties there? So yeah, a lot of what we do is in a company now is, okay, how do we actually find good properties to purchase? A lot of it is okay, well, just go through the MLS, have a data model built on top that just tries to estimate what we think each room would rent for. And then sort of figuring all that out, right? So
So how do you figure out room rents? Because obviously that's different than a lot of the software that we have. The algorithms that are out there tend to go on a full rental. So whether it's a full apartment or a full house, how do you go about establishing that dollar besides looking at the little tear off things on college campuses? Which do those still exist? Because that is how old I am. There was a little need a room tear off a little end of the paper.
It's basically the digital equivalent, right? So it's like we right now it's relatively manual, right? So we're only in 7 markets, so we can basically go by zip code and say like, okay, I'm going to go into Roomster and Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and just look at like all the places within a 1 mile radius and look at their average prices. We've automated some of that, right? Of like, okay, like just looking at like all the locations in the zip code so we can have like a whole list of those areas. But a lot of it is like sometimes you just get a lot of value just going, okay, like what literally is the manual, like how much are we renting now?
So talk to me a little bit about what your software is, what your program is. What are you building out there with these 7 locations that you're working on? Give us a little more detail.
So we basically try to make it as easy as possible for people to remotely invest in real estate. So we'll like do everything from identifying properties to finding the tenants for you, to doing all the necessary construction work, renting them by the room, and sort of making it like that a super turnkey, easy process. Then while on the other side is like we're making it very easy for people to actually have like affordable housing, right? And like we're about usually half as cheap as it would be to get like a studio apartment in most markets. So it's kind of crazy how much like we're able to increase that supply pretty quickly.
So since people are living in a common property together, is there a different background check or application? Is safety and security a part of the conversation now that it wasn't in a traditional whole property rental?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we make sure we do like just relatively simple credit scores and everything there and make sure everyone's like verified there. And we'll also have like a just introductory call with the existing tenants. If they're moving into a new house, it's a little bit harder. Usually you'll just like call them up and make sure they're like a reasonable person. But if like there's existing tenants, we usually set up a call and talk to them about like, okay, like this is the person you may be moving in with, and like try to make sure they at least get along decently well, right? So yeah.
All right. So, of course, the premise of the show is the crazy shit in real estate. And we like to hear the stories of what you've seen out there, whether it's from your perspective, it could be something fascinating that you've observed on the data side. It could be what you experienced as an investor. Love to know what story you tell when your buddies ask you, "Hey, Mike, what's the wildest thing you've seen in real estate?"
Yeah, so I think I told the story a couple times.
This episode is sponsored by Follow Up Boss, one of the leading CRMs, client relationship managers for residential real estate. Tons of top producing agents and some of the fastest growing teams out there are using Follow Up Boss to increase lead conversion, eliminate busy work that you're not doing anyway, and frankly, deliver a higher class experience in real estate to everybody who chooses you as their realtor of choice. Follow Up Boss is going to take the names and phone numbers and also help you know what to do next so you can maintain these relationships with your neighbors, because that's what this is about. Real estate is not about serving just prospects and clients. It's about taking great care of your neighbors' needs in real estate. Truly, it's going to change your business when you start paying better attention to people. They don't have to know you use Follow Up Boss, but they'll totally understand that they are being heard by you. And frankly, because you're my people and we made an ask for you, Follow Up Boss said, yes, you get double the free trial. That's actually enough time to log in, put some pieces in it, and watch it change your business as it has for so many realtors and teams nationwide. Again, go to followupboss.com/crazy to start your free trial today.
So when I was looking for an investment property, it took us like 10 offers in 8 or 9 months. And the only reason we found out about this place was like, what was it? Like, what was a good way to explain this? So the owner was this eclectic, like crazy, like 80-year-old Japanese guy.
Okay.
And like none of this stuff was permitted. So he had this fear of like showing the house. So he wouldn't show like half the house to anyone during the open house. He was also a real estate agent, so he was doing his own listing. Because of course he was. So like it was like 2 offers on this place. So we ended up getting it like right at list price, which was like we thought was like a really amazing deal. And then like we saw the rest of the house and it was like the best part of the house and amazing. And like you should have just showed it to everyone and like actually done pictures and like there was other crazier parts, right? So like he thought it would be a good idea for all the open houses to have this like Mexican family cooking breakfast for everyone. And we to this day we have no idea who they are.
So he hired somebody to come cook during the open house in
yeah. So but didn't tell anyone who they were.
They didn't show the whole house.
Right, exactly. And like, we also thought they were the tenants, but they like didn't really speak English, so we weren't sure. And then in the backyard, there was this like local band playing, which we thought were like the back house tenants or something. Um, Also, they weren't like the tenants were like two like pretty nice 24-year-olds. They were like, what in the world is going on?
Sounds like he's showcasing the diversity of the neighborhood, whether
That was the idea, but it just came across this upon like we have 8 people living in this house, and like
and they all
why
get
would I
along.
want to? Yeah, but like that wasn't the house. Like it was he was like it was actually a nice single family rental, and like it was a great place. But like I don't know why he didn't just show it like that. Like they would have sold for, well, we wouldn't have gotten it, right? Because we were like, oh, this tenant's great, like great from an investor perspective. But like in the Bay Area, those places do not go for nearly as much money as the like huge house rental, right? So huge house, like
maybe there's like a whole concept here of showing the worst parts of the house only, so you only get the bids that are comfortable with the worst part of the house, and then you get surprised by the best part later, which is the opposite of real estate.
I mean, it's usually it's a terrible thing to do as a listing agent, right? But like it worked out great for us, so I don't know.
He was happy.
Yeah. Yeah, like I don't know. He should have just showed the whole thing in its entirety. I mean, like I think he was just afraid that like some of the unpermit work with the city would notice or something.
I mean, we should put permits on the work because lenders care about that, and the city will find out. Those bureaucrats, they'll find it.
Well, San Jose is like they're overworked, so like I think they like went through and like 20% of properties have like unpermitted additions or like backyard houses, and it's like San Jose, California, they don't.
So is that why they pushed through the statewide ADU approval so that it would mean all those are grandfathered in, they're good to go?
Except basically, they were like, we can't like we're already not enforcing it. Let's just make them all legal to begin with, because but then we did find like he submitted the paperwork, but then it just never got approved, and he never fixed. Like I don't know what happened, but yeah. And like we're not gonna like apparently it's grandfathered in now, so like I guess
I told you not to talk in acronyms and I spit out ADU. Hey, listeners and viewers, that's an accessory dwelling. And if you want to deep dive into that, I did a whole episode on that last year, so you go listen to that and get some inside information. It's fantastic. But so Mike, tell us what you're going to do next in real estate. You haven't bought anything in 3 years because you're waiting on the market to settle out. You're thinking about Texas. What are the criteria that you use to pick a property besides what it rents for by the room? Are you looking at job growth in an area? Are you looking at climate? So it's somewhere you want to live one day? What are the external factors that would drive you?
It's usually been a combination of both, right? So that's why we were like kind of laying around on Austin, right? Because like one of the populations got kind of crazy, and also like we might eventually move there for like tax purposes for a few years, right? So like, oh, like maybe it's like would make sense to find the nicest place, rent it out for a few years, and then eventually buy it. I don't know. We move very slowly on these things, and then very quickly, like once we actually make a decision. So it's like I think we're still trying to figure like some of that out, right? But Austin's going to call it like really crazy, right? So like we can't find how like so my day job right now is like I work at this company called HomeRoom where I do all the growth, right? So we basically try to do this at scale. We have about 100 properties so far. And all of our houses in Austin rent like absurdly quickly, like even if they're like 20 miles outside of downtown, right? So like we'll pretty much every house will be fully rented before it's even like ready for people to live in, which is like kind of crazy. Whereas like some other markets, that's like a little bit harder, right? Like people actually want to see the house before they want to like rent it.
It's just wild and crazy how that's become something that almost feels unreasonable for somebody to say, but I want to see it first. And you're like, you don't have time to see it, dude. Sign up.
I know, yeah. I mean, like in the Bay Area, it's true though. Like I like so my like rental here, like I'll put like a bedroom up on like a Thursday, and then like I'll have like 30 or 40 responses like before next Friday and Saturday, do like one day of showings, and then like okay, it's gone. And like the tenants don't really know that, like because like I'm like, okay, you should probably just sign because like, there's a good chance by like tomorrow morning like someone else will take it. So but they eventually figure it out, right? So
nobody wants to be the pressure person, but it is something you almost learn after you lose a couple of times.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like I don't want to be hard pressure, but I'm just like going to tell you as it is. Like it's going to go. So if you want it, like get it. If not, like well, I have 25 other people stopping by. So
well, and I think that's the hardest thing about this market that we've been in for the last couple of years, that if you tell the truth to somebody about how fast they have to go, how high they have to go, and how much they have to give up in the way of information. It sounds like we're being pressured on them, but the reality is we're just telling the truth about the market, and it's just hard to stomach, because I'll just tell you, nobody in real estate likes the market we're in. That we prefer a balanced market where there's at least a minute to do an inspection or an appraisal, so you know exactly what you're buying. And the same thing for our investors. They like to know a little about what they're getting into as well. So Mike, if somebody wants to reach out to you and learn more about what you're doing in these different markets, if you can talk to them about house hacking, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
So personally, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always down to have more conversations like this. If you want to hear more about, like, if you want to particularly invest in any of like the Midwest cities or anything, of like buying your own investment properties, like my day job is basically making that a turnkey experience. So if you just go to like livehomeroom.com/invest, there's a whole bunch of information there. So.
Perfect. So his links, all of his handles are in the show notes for this episode. So y'all can go click through and gather some information and see if this makes sense to you. Mike, thank you for coming on the show and for giving us a little bit of insight into what you're doing.
Cool. Thank you so much. Yeah. Cool.
All right, guys, hit subscribe, 5 stars, hit the bell. Make sure you leave something in the comments about what you're doing for investing, and we'll see you next time. So if you found value in this episode, please like and subscribe to this channel, turn on the bell, and catch another amazing episode by clicking above. Crazy Shit in Real Estate is also available in all of your normal podcast apps. So if that's where you like to hang out, go find me, click subscribe, and most importantly, leave me a review that says you think I'm awesome, my guests are awesome, or this content is just exactly what you were looking for. And then, by the way, if there's something you need, you want to learn about something, you can comment below anytime. You can also send me a direct message if you need to remain anonymous. No judgment. But anyway, I'll only judge if you forget to subscribe and click. I'll see you next time.